But I do want to circle back. You mentioned Ryan Garcia, and obviously you are writing a piece about him in your book, and I do think he's a fascinating character to write about. Honestly, obviously got a year suspension by the New York State Athletic Commission for that failed PD test against Devin Haney. Will have to pay back his guaranteed purse of $1.1 million to Golden Boy. I don't understand why it goes back to Golden Boy, and was fined $10,000 as well. Would you make of the judgment of 12 months? Obviously, his team were able to prove that he didn't ingest it deliberately, that substances were contaminated or whatever. So they were able to prove and hence get the time down. Would you make of 12 months?
Yeah, and there's something else to add there, which young Charlie Parsons raised with me this morning, the presenter of the Stomping Ground on DAZN, Ade, and that is what happens to Ryan Garcia's £3 million bet on himself winning by knockout as well, with the fight annulled.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't think about that.
Yeah, but
he
maybe
has to give that back as well, surely.
Yeah. Well, if the fight's annulled, maybe he just gets his money back. But you know, if you've cashed in, if you cashed your ticket in, maybe he's got to find $9 million to give back. What do I make of it? Well, it's a plea bargain. Clearly, it's the equivalent of a plea bargain. They've taken the rap. They did produce evidence. I'd love to read the report. I think Dan Rayfield's put out some kind of reports on or certainly the statement from the Athletic Commission. What do I make of it? What I like about it is it's been dealt with very quickly.
Yeah.
We know where we stand. That's been really pleasing. Listen, it's one of the pitfalls of the sport is that people pop for substances in their system, and it alters the way we feel about people, or it alters the way the fans feel about people, and there's a lot of judgment. They produce some evidence. Clearly, that evidence they've done the strict liability route, and they've taken a decision and they've banned him for a year. We go round and round in circles with these stories. It's wrong that he's got an illegal substance in his system. He's given a reason for it. They said they found it in supplements that he was taking.
And that's that.
And that's that, and it's dealt with. And he's taken his fine, and he's taken his ban. He's also, I think, got to think very carefully, and I think they have, about him not making weight next time as well. Because this fight with Devin Haney is going to happen in a year's time, isn't it? Or in 16 months' time. It's going to be bigger than it was the first time. He's going to be accused by Devin Haney of being a drugs cheat in the build-up, and it's going to be a massive event. Garcia's going to back himself to beat Haney up again and knock him out. But what we can't allow next time, or what they can't allow as a team or as a promotion, is for him to have those extra 3 pounds and not cut the weight. They've got to make it at the right weight. No?
I don't know. Yeah, no, look, you're correct. He needs to, if it's a 140 fight, he needs to come in at 140.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
So there, I just don't know how this kid, being 12 months off and living the way he lives, ever gets down to 140 again. I'd be shocked if he makes 147. He looks like he almost looks like he's spiraling out of control. I don't want to say mimicking Conor McGregor, because Conor's a family man, and I guess so is Ryan to an extent.
He is.
But he looks like he's a kid that could balloon up and up and up, and he likes to drink. Every time I see him, he's on a poker table having a drink. He looks very big now already, doesn't he? I don't know. Look, we're going to talk more Ryan Garcia a bit later, because I do think we need to delve into, and especially the 1.1 million to Golden Boy. I find that quite interesting how that money goes back to the promoters as opposed to the man that took the beat in Devin Haney. I think he should get every single penny of this, if I'm honest with you. All right, let's talk Ryan Garcia. We did touch on him at the top of the show, but let's delve into this story a bit deeper now. Ryan Garcia, who fought Devin Haney April 20th in New York. After that fight, obviously, he tested positive for the drug Ostarine. As a result of that, he has now been suspended for 12 months by the New York State Athletic Commission. And by the way, Gareth was perfect when he touched on it. That's a quick turnaround. 2 months, I think, is actually very, very good, especially when you consider who they're dealing with. Ryan Garcia is a superstar, so they've got to make sure they get everything correct. So yeah, it's taken 2 months to come to that judgment. He has been suspended 12 months. He will have to give his 1.2 million guaranteed purse. So that's not all of the money he made, but that is his guarantee back to Golden Boy promotion. And he's been fined $10,000 as well. Whew, quite a lot to go through here. One thing we haven't really spoken about before we touch on Ryan is Devin Haney, the guy he was in the ring with. Obviously, that fight is now a no contest. Devin might get some of that 1.2 million purse that I spoke about given to him by Golden Boy. I doubt it very, very much. But for Devin, I feel like I almost feel sorry for Devin here a lot, Gareth. He fought a guy that came in overweight. And look, Devin agreed to fight him. So, hey, he got paid for it. He fought a guy that, had drugs in his system, intentionally or unintentionally. He fought a guy with drugs in his system. And he took a beating that night. And hopefully he recovers from it. But we've seen fighters not recover from those beatings in their next couple of performances. I almost feel like Devin's been given the short straw of everything here for some reason.
Yeah, that's a very good call. Like you say, how he recovers from that loss that has now been annulled as a no contest is a very big thing, because he did take a physical beating on the night in terms of being knocked down. And we've never seen him look as dismayed as that, or as shocked as that. And like you say, there could be scars from that, which are wrong given the circumstances of what's transpired since, in terms of the suspension of a year for Ryan Garcia, the purse being taken away from him, the fine being installed on him. Look, he was done wrong by. There's no question about that, and he's right to feel that he wants a break. I think he'll come back and he'll fight Ryan Garcia in a rematch. I expect that'll be the first fight back, unless both men want to warm up. But he probably needs a break from the sport. He's a very wealthy man. He got his money for that fight. He's got his undefeated record back. That is one good thing for him. But we can't allow Ryan Garcia to run roughshod over the rules in the second fight. He's got to make the weight. They've got to make it at a weight that's suitable for both men. You've been around Devin Haney. He's very thick in the neck. He's not a small man himself. It probably wasn't too long before he was going to go up to welterweight anyway. But maybe they make this new fight at a catchweight of 4'3" or 4'5", or even fully at welterweight at 147, 10 stone 7. Just to make sure that Garcia makes weight, because I think he's got to this time. He can't run roughshod over it. I think he gambled last time. So I spoke to some people in the industry that know these things, and to some ex-fighters, and they believe he calculated that. He may not have. He may not be able to make the weight. Let's make it so that Ryan Garcia is going into the ring against a Devin Haney who hasn't had to boil his body down. And that's what happened on the night.
Isn't that part of the bigger problem? You mentioned sort of boxing being the wild, wild west, and there are no rules. The idea of someone coming in 3.5 pounds over and the fight not being called off, like it should almost be taken out of Devin Haney's hands of whether or not he wants to fight Ryan. The fact is, you've not made the weight, the fight's off, unfortunately. And yes, look, it's a big problem for the promoters and the broadcasters, but
it is.
They can't. How are they allowed us to decide that the fight goes on? Do you know what I mean? It's a kind of like, no, you've not made weight, fight's off. Sorry.
This is boxing, unfortunately, and your main event, certainly in that contest, was what sold the night. You're giving back 25,000 tickets. Your broadcast team of your broadcasters have sold the pay-per-view rights. It's a disaster. It's a financial disaster. Look what happened, to mention a story that hasn't been had a resolution yet. Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. 2 years on, we still haven't got transparency and clarity or lucidity over where Conor Benn is right now. Eddie Hearn, I think, is on record as saying that cost DAZN $500,000, or certainly cost the promotion $500,000. I think he's on record saying that when it was pulled. So there are enormous pitfalls with these kind of things, and it ends up coming down to the superstars who are involved to make sure they're on the money. Ryan Garcia is a superstar. He's a huge superstar for the sport. Look, he's even more compelling than he used to be for his zaniness now. And he's a soap opera right now. Imagine a Netflix series filming Ryan Garcia right now, as you say, in these poker tournaments, drinking shots of tequila. Nothing wrong with that. But drinking tequila, enjoying himself, and he doesn't look. But then he doesn't look completely away with the fairies that people accuse him of being, because the next minute he's there photographed with his child,
Yeah.
enjoying his child. So, and he's got family around him. He's had issues with his mum having had cancer. I
Mm.
think she's fighting cancer at the moment.
Hmm.
There's a lot going on in his life. And what is he? Still only 26.
Yeah, no, he's a young kid, and you are correct with your assessment there, because that there's part of me that just looks at him like he's a young rich kid that's just living life. Like he's just living life. He's got plenty of money. He's a good-looking kid, and he's out playing poker and he's drinking. He's doing everything a 26-year-old would do. We just maybe don't want to see it when it comes to the sport of boxing, because we want to feel like all these fighters live like nuns, which isn't the case. In between fight camps, they can go a bit reckless. I'm just worried with him not having a fight now for 12 months. At least, it's not like he comes back on the day that suspension ends. I'm just a bit worried that he could go a bit too far. That's my only concern with these fighters. You almost feel like there's some of them, the personality is like a Billy Joe Saunders and a Tyson Fury, where there needs to be something scheduled. There needs to be something on the horizon, or it could go astray very quickly.
I say this, and I don't say this in a dark way. I mean it in the way that I want it out there in the bright light. Um, there's a thing called a Saturn return, and a lot of great rock stars died around the age of 26, 27, where they were living their and it's called a Saturn return. It comes back in your life in your 50s as well, when you tend to have more health problems. But in the 20s, a lot of people die through excess, through reaching the heights and living with the excess. I just pray for him, and he is a very spiritual young man. I just pray for him over the next year that he does have the right people on his side, and that he does not go too wild, and that he is around in a year's time to thrill us again in the ring. And I do hope he learns in the next year that um, that, like you say, he's a very wealthy. He's got it all going for. He's got everything going for him, hasn't he? Basically,
Yeah.
he's handsome. He's wealthy. He can fight. He's got the fastest hands on the planet. He's got a rematch with Devin Haney. He and Tank Davis literally agreed to rematch the other day at ringside. Again, that's a fight I'd love to see at a slightly higher weight, at 145, 147. Let's see Tank challenge himself. And as you rightly said, and we discussed a couple of weeks ago, Tank Davis, or it might have been last week, Tank Davis is on the way to being number one pound for pound at the moment.
Yeah.
And since we spoke about that, by the way, while I mention it, Shaka Stevenson is a little bit unhappy because he slipped down the pecking order a little bit, and he wants bigger fight moment. And he's in his last fight with Top Rank at the moment on his current deal, and I hope he stays with Top Rank as well.
Yeah, final one on this before we move on to different subjects. Does boxing need to make an example out of someone with regards to its bans? Like, does someone need to be given something crazy? I am a big athletics fan, and there's a gentleman called Gil Roberts who tested positive for a second time for Ostarine, got 8 years. Athletics, he runs the 400 meters, not hurting anyone. He's running around a track in his own lane. He's not in a physical fight. He's not out there to do damage. This is not the dangerous sport in the world. He got 8 years. That's it. His career's over. He's done. He won't ever run again. Boxing would never do that. I mean, you just don't get those kind of suspensions in boxing. You get 6, 12, 18 months maybe. Does boxing need to really turn it up on someone to really deter people that want to cheat?
Yeah, they could do that, but the trouble is, boxing doesn't then get the drop from the superstar. That's the problem. Everybody's got their fingers their hands in the cash pile. Everybody knows that you can have enormous events with Ryan Garcia against virtually anyone out of a list of 6 or 7 fighters. You don't even need a title belt on the line, and it's an enormous fight. And that goes from Tank Davis to Keyshawn Davis to Tio Lopez to Devin Haney to and on and on and on, by the way. And you just know that that's generating tens of millions of dollars because it's him right now and he's such a big star. And I don't think boxing will ever do that. I can't see them doing it because that they it's just such an inexact. I say Wild West is the perfect analogy for it. It's like the Wild West.
No, agreed.
And you know, athletics again, like you say, is not endangering or damaging anyone physically. It's not inherently dangerous, and yet they've made the right decision with the athlete you mentioned. I don't see boxing doing it.
It won't. No, it's had a history of opportunities to do it, and it hasn't. I mean, Jarrell Miller was a great example, and this is not digging out Jarrell. We served his suspension, but this guy had a pharmacy in his body, pretty much a pharmacy in the lead up to the Anthony Joshua fight. And that was a great time to say, okay, here is 8 years, because you've actually had everything in your system, and he didn't get that. And he's now fighting and making millions, millions, by the way. So, yeah, it won't do it. And I think we know that. And I think the sooner that we as fight fans just come to that agreement in our brains that we understand what these fighters are going to get in terms of suspensions, I think the better for us.
It's not right.
Oh, sorry.
It's not right. It's not right. Let's make that point. It's not.
No, it's not right at all. It's not right.
But the way boxing is, you can't see that going ahead. You can't see that happening. Maybe if in the Saudi Arabian process you get a first and a second, you get a first chance, you get a chance to prove it, or you get a chance to be wrong, but you don't get a chance to be wrong the second time. You could see people being excluded in that process if they made the decision, by the way.